Could everybody post it somewhere?
It's on the wall.
Right there.
And
right
then
here,
each of the TVs.
Oh, yeah.
All the screens tied together.
All the screens are tied together. They all have the same thing. Yeah, that one's for y'all. We have American flags and whatever we got.
We got you, Ken. We watching you. Okay.
I need my glasses.
I like it.
I've been so far away from people.
Yeah, you just tagged me now.
We almost don't even need the microphones now that we're so close.
This is also different for us. We've been at the Recreation Center for a number of months and looking at the back of the council. We were looking at the back of their head, trying to hear everybody and all those kind of things. I like this where we can see each other and the audience is closer to us so we can see all you folks. Appreciate that. That's kind of the thing we're talking about. We're a little closer than we normally are, but that works too. That works too. We'll talk on it.
I told you we're gonna have a lot right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Verizon.
I'm seeing that too.
Verizon.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I think we need a digital clock hanging up there. Of course.
Motion here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep. I'd like to call this session to order. This is a mayor and city council study session. This is September the 5th, 2023. I'll call on Officer Evans to give us the information about the meeting.
All rise. The September meeting of the Shelbyville City Council study session is about to commence. Please be seated. Silence all cell phones, noise-making devices. At the conclusion of tonight's meeting, this building will return to not a police headquarters anymore. We ask that if you have any business conduct following the meeting, you do it within 5 minutes and depart the building forthwith.
Thank you, Officer Evans. You may have a seat.
So will you hand me that clipboard on that podium right here, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we want to open our meeting this afternoon with public comments. We have, according to July the 1st, the new law in the state of Tennessee, we have public comments at each one of our meetings. Does anyone have a public comment, and have you signed up on the agendas chief to speak at the podium.
Mr. Mayor, I have
Okay.
one person that has signed up, and I'm sorry, is it Shantae?
Yes, ma'am.
Shantae McBride. If you'll come forward, you have 3 minutes. You just address your comments, and they probably won't say anything back to you. It's just for you to give us information. Okay.
So I just want to start out that I'm here to discuss the upcoming, I think it's number 12. Oh, can y'all hear me, everybody? Okay.
Can you turn that on?
Hold it.
Okay. Oh, now it's really loud. How about I step back?
You're good.
Okay. So at Willowmont, I don't know if any of y'all have been out there lately, Willowmont Cemetery.
Right.
They have done a wonderful job of cleaning it up and getting it presentable and stuff, but the main thing I want to talk about tonight is the blanketing situation. It is completely out of hand. I personally am having a huge ordeal with it, just in my own family group. But I mean, if you've not been out there, there are trees being planted to outline, rocks being put to outline, and the grass is growing up in between places because they cannot maintenance it. When things are being avoided so that it doesn't get broken, then it's being talked about and blasting them for not being maintenance well and them being lazy, not doing their job. When something accidentally, people are having these little glass figurines outline and everything. When something accidentally gets broken, oh, they're desecrating. So the blanketing for me is a huge ordeal. There are alcoholic beverages being opened and left, bottles being broken. There have been drugs, food that is causing a ton of the fire ants. I have a toddler, and at this point, he's in that 19-month stage where he's running every which way. And just to try to stay there, I'm terrified that because we have alcohol and everything around us, that he's going to end up getting his hands on something, or worse, he's going to pick up a piece of glass, which I don't know. I guess the drugs would be worse, wouldn't it? But I hate to see him bleed too. So at one point, we've even had, I think, our grave alone, and this is not my doing. I do own my husband's plot, but I've had 20 different solar lights to outline my husband's grave. I don't know anybody that's that blind unless you've actually got a license to be so, we don't, it's a little extra, and not everybody's blanketing. It's not a huge problem that everyone's doing it, but the ones that are do it to an extreme. And it doesn't look good. They're not able to do their job like they should be able to, and it could look so much better if we can get a hold of that. I won't take up any more of your time. That is my thank you to Willowmont and the people that run it. They've done a great job trying to help me and everyone in work. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Scott, do you have anything to say along that line, or is Ben here? Ben's not here, is he?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Ben right there. Hi, Ben. Ben, you could tell us the.
We actually, it's on.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. Discussion items. Our number one discussion item was Connect Bedford Broadband. And Tracy, would you come forward, please? How are you?
Good, how are you tonight?
Good.
Do I need to press anything here? We're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give us a test.
That's,
Yeah, you go.
Yes.
for those of you who don't know me, I'm Tracy Strassner, and I am here tonight representing the great work that a group did, a cross-functional group did across the county, in a program called Tennessee Accelerate Broadband. What you have in front of you was the outcome of that 15 weeks of work that we did, and we've now enabled ourselves to connect Bedford. But let me start with what Tennessee Accelerate Broadband was. Back in March, anticipating that the state and the federal level were going to release about $800 million for infrastructure for broadband line internet. The state put out an application for people to participate in a program that would help rural communities get smarter about and start working on a plan to accelerate broadband in the areas when those funds would become available. So we put together an application, and we were one of 5 counties that were accepted. And we've been through this program for 16 weeks that ended in August, started in May. Bethany was part of the program, so was Thomas, and we've had several other areas of the city participate. We've had the county participate, Metro County Schools. The ag folks really showed up for this one. But throughout the process, we actually supported a survey, and that was the key thing for us to do. And I wanted to give you guys a readout of the survey because it'll give you perspective on where we stand in the county as well as the city for broadband right now. And so if you look at the top of that flyer, you'll see that curve, and you'll see kind of a graph. That graph is something that Chris White helped us kind of develop, because he had the 2006 broadband plan for the county. So if you look at that top left-hand side where it says 52%, back in 2006, when they did that plan and they asked the residents of the county, 52% said that they had access to broadband. If you now look at the graph and look at the bottom right-hand side, when we asked people this June, July, so this year, 2020, 3 months ago, 38% of the county responded that they had access to broadband. So as the internet has went up, access has went up, more people are using it for everything they do, our local access has went down. So we have a gap here. And so that's what we want to create as a call to action that we want to solve for. Our team rallied around a mission that we said we want to be the first rural community to provide all of its residents access to affordable and reliable internet. So we're working now on a plan in partnership with United and several other grants that are coming down to actually make sure that we can shore up and improve people that have access now, as well as create a plan for the future. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to walk you through a couple of things that say what our plan. And it's just the tenants. So it's under our plan, infrastructure. There's a lot of places that don't have any infrastructure. There's either no fiber in the air, or there's no fiber in the ground, so they can't get access. 78% of our residents in the county are using a cell phone or some sort of cell phone hotspot as their access. So it's because they don't have access from their area. So the first thing we need to do is solve getting infrastructure in place. The second thing would be, once you have infrastructure, you have to give people access. And there's two tenets to access. One is it affordable? Can they afford it? And we need to be aligned to give more people lower cost options for access. The second is they need a device to access it. And there's grants that are coming down the pipeline that should enable us to go after the library and go after other places to provide more access to more devices out in the communities. Once they have access to devices, we want to make sure people know how to use them. So that gets into the digital skills and literacy. So we're working on programs now where how can we educate people? How can we advance telehealth? How can we help people apply for services online and make it more accessible, whether or not it's skills, whether or not it's continued education, or whether or not it's just communicating more so with your families remotely. As part of that survey, in the bottom left, you'll see why broadband. What was the community? When we asked the question in our survey, why does the community want broadband? The first answer was services. People need it for their day-to-day lives, whether or not it's applying for jobs or applying for any other services. That was the number one. Communication and email. Everyone's now connected that way. They want to send emails to their family. They want to do FaceTimes with their family. They want to do Zooms, whatever that's changed post-COVID. Communication was the number two thing. Then with education, we know with COVID and with everything that happened in the schools, people they want access to current education or continuing education where they can skill up. Community health, that gets back to telehealth. And then the one that surprised us mostly was a lot of people need it for banking and financial management. So that was a surprising one for us, but when you think of what everyone's doing for secure transactions these days, everyone's relying on banking on their phone, and so they want a secure way to do that. So those were the reasons that the county said they wanted. If you flip to the other side, and I'll try to wrap up quickly for you guys, we had an incredible response. So the group that ran the Tennessee Accelerate program has done this in several states. And when we were talking about our survey, it's middle of June. Like, we've got people on holiday, it's summertime, our schools are out. Like, we're not going to get the responses that we expected. Between the city and the county reaching out and sending it to their employees, between the school reaching out to all the teachers and all the parents, and then John Teague and the ag community did an amazing job of reaching out to people and having them respond. We had over 1,500 respondents. We went into July 4th with over 1,000 people, and they're like, wow, you guys blew us away. We've never seen anyone kind of do that. So it was awesome.
Good.
And so it gave us really realistic results. And if you look at the top left, the satisfaction, everything's under 35%. No one's satisfied with the broadband that we currently have. The speed's slow, the reliability's not there, and it's not affordable. And what we're finding is most people are having to do multiple sources for their broadband. So I'm paying for one thing, I'm paying for my cell phone, I'm paying for a hotspot, I'm paying for streaming, all because they don't have one single place for it. From an access perspective, there's three terms I want you guys to become familiar with. There is unserved. You don't have any internet whatsoever, ever. And that tends to be most of the rural areas of the community. You're underserved, which are like me in the Black Creek area. I have internet, So 25 uploaded and 3 download. It doesn't serve the purpose of what most people would say right now. And then you have about 37% of our community that is served today, and that they're meeting the 100. From a respondent's perspective, I just want to give you a profile of who responded. We had small businesses respond. We had 12% of our ag community respond, which again was another record for them. And what they're saying is their jobs in the community get easier, that they have access and they can predict and use the technology that so many of the tractors and the other companies are using right now. So our plan, and no call to action for you guys right now, is just to educate you, would be that we're going to help and support United. They're going after $50 million grant that'll probably become available in October. We may need to do letters of support for them, but they're working on what they call the last mile, last acre. And we coined our phrase last acre because we know so many of the county farms are in that last acre, and we need to get them the access that they need. And then connecting our community. So we've got a group that's starting to form. How do we actually get our community connected to those things become available? We can provide telehealth, or we can go into some of the other areas and drop in devices and hotspots that will become available. There's 2 grants that are over 100,000 each that we think can enable in the short term of the next year that we can provide more access to folks. And then the last part is really how do we kind of build on that to accelerate communities for workforce development and other areas of the county. So we continue to meet. We're going to meet at least every other Wednesday right now, and we'll be back when we have a call to action for you guys. I just wanted to give you an update.
Anyone have any questions? Good presentation, Tracy.
Thank you.
Is Duck River Electric or any of those folks working with you on this?
Duck River, not yet.
Okay.
They're one of the ones on this rotation to kind of educate them on what we've done. We're also doing the civic clubs. We're meeting with the partnership as well, just to make sure we've got alignment on all the groups.
I'll just share with you and the audience that when I was with Duck River Electric, we set the first dish and receiver for DirecTV, which was in RTC on up at Swanee. The folks didn't have television at that point. 2, 4, 5, and 8 were the stations they had, and they could not get rural TV. So NRTC was a national organization. Are you working with any national organizations that helping with this?
So the Benton Group is a national organization that educates and supports rural communities. And they were the ones that actually really led and facilitated the sessions that we were in, and that they were part of the survey process wasn't necessarily just to get feedback and get data. We actually had people perform a speed test. And so they were very helpful in helping us with the speed test and pulling that data together, because now we can go after or challenge a United or a Spectrum when they say, here's what our speed is that we think we're performing at. And we're like, oh no, we had people who said it's this. And at least we can go back in the short term and say, we would like you to improve your speeds now. That doesn't require funding for infrastructure. That's something that you guys should be able to do in your service model today.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Okay. Second item is the Renters Community or Committee report. Tristan Call, would you come forward, please? Good evening.
Good evening. That was the test. That worked? All right. We're going to split this up a little bit, the presentation here. My name's Tristan. I'm with the Bedford County Listening Project. And as we had on August 26th, so a week ago Saturday, a public hearing outside here at the courthouse where we launched kind of the first report based on what we've been working on for the last 6 months. I think everybody probably has one, but if you don't, raise your hand, I'll give you one. And if anybody in the audience wants one also, sure. And honestly, I'm really excited today because as you look through that report, or if you were there for the hearing, you know that there's a lot in there. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of data that we found. There's a lot of findings. There's a lot of recommendations. I won't go through all that today. What we're really here for today is we're excited about one first small step, which we see as being luckily pretty easy because it's something that the Shelbyville City Council, it basically costs the city nothing. It's easy to do, and it's something the federal government has already requested of local governments for So I'll explain what that is for a second, and then we hope to see that move forward to the voting meeting on the 14th and be able to get that first small step done this month, and then move to some of these other, honestly, more challenging and more involved recommendations and processes that might come next. But the first one, as I'm sure a lot of y'all know, if you want to follow along here, if you have this report, you can turn to page 21, and this is the appendix in there. This comes word for word by the city's own Safe and Affordable Housing Committee back on June 25th. So this is, sorry, July 25th. So that's a month now, over a month now already sent to the federal government as a response from the committee. And as I think y'all probably know and have noticed, there's a trend of especially bigger housing complexes, apartment complexes in the city getting bought out by out-of-town companies, a lot of the millionaire or billionaire companies that are, some of them renovating, some of them not renovating, most of them raising the rent. But I'll just give an example. Bedford Manor got bought. Those 108 families now have a landlord in Irvine, California. It was bought by WNC. Or Park Trail, those 108 families now have a landlord that lives in Brooklyn, New York. So to give a sense of there's probably 10 complexes that have been bought out in the last 5 or 10 years. 5 of them were bought using government money, right? So you can see 4 of them here. We actually found out there's a 5th one since this happened, since this comment was written. That's Park Trail. So of those 5, you can just kind of see in here, we're talking about the Ridge, talking about Oak Knoll, Admiral Place, used to be called Stonebrook, Bedford Manor, now called Canterbrook, and Park Trail. So that's about 400 households, most of them low income, that are currently living in apartment complexes that were bought using government money in the last 10 years. Some of them just in the last couple of years, like Admiral Place and Bedford Manor. So where this came from is that the Federal Housing Finance Agency, which regulates, they're the people who govern those loans. From Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, if y'all are familiar, they're the ones that set the rules for those loans. They've been getting a lot of pushback because as has happened in Shelbyville around the country, people got that money, bought the properties, doubled people's rent. All over the country this has happened. So people have been pushing back on the regulator to make some rules associated with that. And they requested input from community groups, from tenants, from local governments. Here in Shelbyville, about 35 tenants of those properties sent comments to the federal government when they asked. That started back in May. And then the Renters Committee made this comment on July 25th. So we're really excited that basically the timeline for that is that they're reading those comments next month. So we wanted to give the city council an opportunity to read what the Renters Committee said, which Joanne will go over in a minute, what the protections are that the committee asked for. Be able to read it, be able to look at it, and then hopefully this month at the voting meeting, say, yep, we agree with that. Federal government, do your job. Protect the renters that are living in the properties that were bought using our money, say all of our money, taxpayer money, right? And so that timeline looks like October, they're reading those comments, and we expect to hear something in the rulemaking process in December. So that's why we're bringing it now. So I'll pass to Joanne to talk just a little bit about what the actual, whatever you want.
Yeah.
The next step.
I have to move this down. I'm short.
Good evening.
Good evening. Is that better? Can you guys hear me? Yes. All right. I'm Joanne Bassel. I am a member of the Renter Committee. I'm also a member of the VCLP, resident of Shelbyville since 2008. And when we started to find out about the request for comment from the FHFA, it can seem like kind of an abstract thing, like the FHFA, what even is that? And that's the Federal Housing Finance Authority. They regulate Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which are mortgage companies that are backed by the United States government. So the United States government is not providing the mortgages, but they are backing mortgages provided by other mortgage companies under these 2 companies, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So it's a little bit complicated. But because of the issues that are happening all across the country with rent going up,
properties are not being adequately maintained. It was really evident that something needed to be done. And one thing that we can do is we can say to the federal government, if you're providing these loans, then you need to make sure that the people that live in these housings are in safe, quality housing that has affordable rent. So when we were going around and we were talking to renters, there were some main things that kept coming up all the time. Number one is that the rent is too high. In Bedford County alone, as you can see in our report, I think we said that in Bedford County, the rent has gone up 31% since like 2020. That's not sustainable for most people. What?
2022.
Oh, 2022 is gone up 31%. That's not sustainable, okay? People can't afford that, regardless of where you live. It doesn't matter if you live in Los Angeles or if you live in Bedford County, 31% increase on your rent. It's not something most people have to afford. So these government loans, the money's being provided to these landlords essentially with no strings attached. The interest rates are very low, but there's nothing built in there to say, if you are getting this money, you have to make sure that you do the following things. So what we have asked for in the recommendation in the letter that we sent to the federal government as the renter committee is that there needs to be a cap on rent. Now, this would not be something that would be the city of Shelbyville saying we are going to enact rent. So I don't want them to be confused. This would be on these properties that are backed by these federal loans. There needs to be anti-retaliation clauses in there. So if a tenant does go to codes or they even file a request for repair, that the landlord cannot retaliate against them. Hold on. Let's see. Sorry, I lost my spot. We are asking that the federal government establish a landlord registry, including the name and phone number of the landlord, because as we said, most of these are owned by corporate landlords. So the tenant may not know who their landlord is. They know who the management company is, who they go to when they have a problem, but they don't know who actually owns the building. And then require landlords to do repairs and provide livable conditions specified in a clear, publicly available lease agreement. So that would include a standardized lease. So landlords can't put in there that a tenant's responsible for the cost of repairs, or a tenant's responsible for making sure that they provide a heat source, or whatever things a landlord might want to write into the lease. So it would be rent caps on how much rent could be raised, do repairs, provide livable conditions, standardized lease, lack of ban retaliation, and then establish a landlord registry. So that was what we as the renter committee submitted in our letter. And so what we're asking the committee to do is to read over the letter that we sent, say, is this something that we as a city want to say to the federal government? We as the city of Shelbyville also agree that these things need to happen. And then we can make sure that we get that submitted to the director of the FHFA in time for it to be included with the comments that she's reviewing. And as Tristan said, timeline for next steps through the FHFA should be sometime in December. Do you guys have any questions?
Any questions, folks? Good presentation, thank you.
Thank y'all.
I understand that we need this on the agenda for September so that it can meet the deadline.
Yes.
So can we make that in a form of resolution to endorse the findings of this committee?
I was about to say, let's do that in the form of resolution and attach the committee's report.
And then we can get you guys the director's information if you want to send it directly from the city, so you can get it directly to the FHFA director.
You get that information to me, that way, because once the resolution is passed, then I would send them a certified copy of it.
Okay.
So if you'll get that information, just email it over to me.
Yeah, not a problem.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Number 3, tourism grant guidelines, and we'll ask our city manager, Scott Collins, to tell us about that.
Thank you, Mayor. Under iPads and in a memo provided, we have recommendation on putting grant guidelines in place for all of the
So do
Yes,
that.
You're on.
Can you hear me now?
Hot, cold, hot, cold.
Maybe it just moves.
Okay, y'all have a memo both on iPads and handed out, hand delivered. And we'd like to propose it for consideration of passage next week. Okay, is that,
Okay, go ahead.
New
Okay.
system.
yeah,
Working out
a
the,
few bugs.
working out the bugs.
But we have categories on how the funding would be considered. We have recommended amount, and at this point, we just like to ask the council for their input.
When I read over this, I didn't see anything about, I guess you replenishing the hotel motel tax fund, which is what's been the emphasis in the past, heads and beds. It looked like, I just didn't see it. Did I miss something in there, or is it? It looked like local activities and organ event activities, regional or state promotion activities, and then national exposure events. But it didn't say to build into their formula how many people they anticipated coming to town and renting rooms, and that was our original goal. Originally was to encourage tourism, which is what this policy, I presume, is gonna help.
Yes, sir. And we can certainly add this. This is just a draft to get the conversation going, because in the opening paragraph, it does state that it's an emphasis on activities that will provide an experience to encourage more frequent and visits of longer duration. So that's a way of saying more heads in beds. But now, if you want to define that language better, we certainly can.
I think the chamber used to have a formula that was like, it's not like you had a event that was only gonna be one night. You wasn't gonna get as much money as one that had 2 nights, or one that's got 3 or 4 or a week.
Yes.
That, they get it, that kind of escalation.
We can make that more clear. I tried to make it more concise, like the local activity grant. It is for none or very limited expected hotel motel stays, 1 day or less in duration, and very limited promotion. And then we just step it up, but I can put more details in there if that's the wish of the council.
Any other thoughts, questions? Mr. Fairhouse?
The only reason I was saying that was along your line of thinking, we can be inundated monthly with requests for money
Yeah.
for everybody's bar mitzvah, for lack of a better word. They're gonna have 100 people of their closest friends comes to town and they'd like $500. There ought to be some more reason, I guess, than just trying to subsidize their budget.
Yes, sir.
Any other thoughts? Good suggestions. Scott, do you have anything else, son? Hopefully you got a chance to look at that. Scott, we'll go back to you again, please.
Thank you, Mayor. We have received 2 responses to our RFP. Retail Strategies, another one from the Retail Coach. Both of these are nationally acclaimed organizations. Both of them have an exceptional track record. One major difference is the reason myself and staff was hesitant to come tonight with the recommendation. We'd like the bid committee to meet with us so we can discuss some of the differences. But one of the organizations, they are currently representing Oklahoma, and they cannot directly recruit for us. The other organization is somewhat more expensive than they can directly purchase. So we like to further conversation bid committee on this issue and weigh out the pros and cons, and then provide the city council a detailed recommendation next week.
Thank you. Any questions on that? All right, next item on our agenda is the Riverview District Streetscape Proposal.
Thank you, Mayor. This proposal is from Studio 8, the current architect that is working with us on the river overlook. And TCA allows us to contact them directly, someone that we have an established relationship with. And they have proposed to do a streetscape design for $14,500. This will be paid out of the Economic and Community Development Fund if council approves, and also would allow us to have a concept plan to approach the business owners on that strip. The section of McGrew between the two buildings, Johnstown Cowboy Vehicle Investments on one side, Glass Hollow Tavern and Table on the other side. Both entities have proposed that we close down that small section, turn it into a Shelbyville small version of Printer's Alley, for example, and call it the Riverview District. And what we're asking for is permission to develop this concept fund or concept plan so we can talk to all entities involved to come up with the funding plan for it.
Anybody from council, what thoughts?
Will it be, Scott, will it be a thing well, it's like Nashville, gonna have some, close it down and be able to open it back up?
Well, right now, and this is in the early stages of the conversation, is to have it closed, but have emergency access, have the bollards in place on the street. And also, we would need to do a design feature for drainage, because right now in that area, the drainage is horrible. And we'd have to design that. So it would be more for pedestrian traffic in that one little section from the end of Glass Hollow to the front of, I can't think of the side street, Depot Street. But it would be more or less non-motorized, except in case of emergencies.
They're gonna be, people are gonna be happy. You better with that. They come around behind the yard, big building, and they turn and come, that's a shortcut.
Yes.
I think, I got a problem, but, like I say, we could put some, or they could put it in the design feature where they could block it off, and then they could come move the stuff to block it off with after what they're doing is over with. Because I guarantee you, if we block it off later, then our people aren't gonna be happy. I mean, big step to close it off.
It is.
Well, it's to make it
I know, too. I mean, I agree with you 100%.
oh, yes, sir, and I'm not arguing, I'm just stating what
Yeah.
has been conveyed to me.
Yeah.
And another point from our, emergency personnel.
Yeah.
They said it'd be better to go ahead and have people used to it being blocked off. Instead of one weekend it's open, they bust it wide open,
Right.
the next weekend it may be closed and they try to bust it.
Be a danger.
So, but now that's a council decision.
Are you saying that both entities are in agreeing to make this happen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Very 100% in informal conversations. We're wanting to get this concept plan so we can take it to the next level and talk detailed funding mechanisms for it.
So you got the 14.5 for the economic impact on getting this started. Is there going to be a continuation for economic impact on down the line? Every year, should we plan to put something like that in our budget as it is drawn from the hotel motel tax?
No, ma'am. Once the initial design is complete, the engineering work with stormwater, underground utilities and stuff, there should be very minimal expenses like regular maintenance. It should not be a reoccurring expense such as design.
Are we working with Shelbyville Power, Water and Sewer? I think I talked to Mr. House about the utilities down that street, and had said he'd already talked to Shelbyville Power about taking the overhead services and things down, all those wires hanging across that street. Have you spoke to them about that?
I've not personally spoke to them, but our staff and ECD team have had conversations. Matter of fact, they've walked it and already making preliminary plans, but we wanted to come to council first before we got too far ahead of ourselves to get approval to do the concept and to fill out. If y'all want to be receptive to actually closing the road down and creating the Riverview District.
It'd be cool to have street festivals and all that stuff in. It would be cool for that. No, we don't dance on the street. That ain't gonna happen.
There's a lot to look at right there, because if we get both of those businesses going and we get that traffic on the square, what we're hoping for is to create a place where folks can go. We'll probably need to look at, I guess, all of that right in that corner right there. If people come out on the square and walking out in the street and all those kind of things like that, we'll look at all of that, I would think. Everybody see what I'm talking about? You getting folks wandering across the street when we've got traffic going around the square. Any other comments or questions on that? Send those to Scott, see what we see. All right, the next item is consideration of a deputy city manager. Scott, you're just a lot of business tonight. Would you help us with that, please?
Yes, sir. This has been discussed for several months now about city taking a more active, definitive role in economic development. And you have before you two proposals. One that would ask for the establishment of a deputy city manager position of economic and community development. And the other one for council's consideration is to simply establish the position of a tourism and marketing director as recommended by few groups. I think you all had 3 different groups make presentations a year or 2 ago, is my understanding. And we're just trying to see where the council wants to go with this.
Any comments or questions on that? Oh,
We talked a bunch, it's time to do it. We bunch of council meetings, we brought up council meeting, you presented us with the draft, this stuff, it's time to move on.
thoughts from anyone else?
Mr. Chris.
Discussion? William?
With the position that the city finds itself in as a result of the vote by the partnership and the county representatives on the partnership, we are really not engaged in economic development at the present time. And my opinion is that 99% of every business or industry that comes to Bedford County will want to be in the city of Shelbyville or annexed into the city of Shelbyville. And we need to play, as far as I'm concerned, a pivotal role, and we need to be involved if it takes our own economic developer or whatever, we need to be on the forefront of any company that comes to, it's not, that comes to our town, because we need to be involved from start to finish. That way we involve our Shelbyville Power, we involve our public works and planning directors. But the situation we find ourselves now, we won't be involved until possibly way down the road with any industry or company that comes to our town. It's not that necessarily we want to, but I think we're in a position where we need to get in front of this in some way to be our. City of Shelbyville used to have our own point person out front. That's not been.
Somebody to come to us directly and tell us what's going on. We keep it up, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't, this ain't nothing to do it. I don't say anything to do with my best.
Mr. Philhouse.
Several comments. I don't know if y'all can hear me, but it doesn't sound like it's coming over, is it? Is it coming over? Anyway.
No.
Says it's on.
Yeah.
You have to hold it on.
It was on here, now it's not.
Now it's not, but
Okay, he had it on.
now it's on again.
Move it a
Increase
little
his
closer.
volume.
The light was on, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's working, but you
Okay.
might move it a little closer.
Comment number one, after I read this, is I've always advocated for the city manager to have some sort of deputy assistant or whatever. Absolutely, he needs the help. City treasurer needs the help. We need a lot of help. To me, a city manager and an assistant city manager would take over a lot of roles day to day that a city manager that we're paying a lot of dollars to could stay on the higher level things like economic development, tourism, whatever the bigger picture the council wants to endorse. So that's my problem right now, is why we would hire a deputy and call it economic and community development. To me, it looks like there's been a lot of decisions, as the city manager's letter says, the city of Shelbyville mayor and city council has expressed interest in the creation of a position for the development of a tourism or economic development program. But now my question is to Mr. Turnbow. You stated a few minutes ago that we have had numerous discussions over the last few months about establishing this position. Please tell me when and where that was on the agenda and where somebody spoke up.
We brought it up in the meeting. I remember I was telling Scott, we said, discussed, we need to do somebody. I mean, I don't keep the minutes.
Bingo, you sure does.
That's exactly right. The partnership is us.
And the reason then that Mr. Christie cited that we're not represented on the partnership board is not because the partnership board kicked you off for no reason. It's because we wouldn't fund the organization. And why do you want to be on the board that you're not funding? And as I have pleaded, numerous meetings that has come up when we want to put money toward economic development, the silence has been deafening. I gave y'all a 4 or 5 page memo last month explaining my position in detail. I've heard nothing, no reason from anybody yet why we're not funding the most successful economic development program the city of Shelbyville and Bedford County has ever seen. Every economic advisor, TVA, economic community development in Tennessee, anybody and everybody that's ever come to us and discussed economic development, a partnership where you had the city, the county, the Chamber of Commerce, our businesses, school system, all focused in one effort. That is what is needed. And that is why the partnership was created. That's why this city helped create it. The county went together, helped fund it. The school system's involved, TCAT's involved, the state of Tennessee, TVA, Middle Tennessee Industrial Development Council. everybody is involved in that, and it's been extremely successful. Still out there working every day to bring businesses to Shelbyville, Tennessee. In particular, retail development and those kind of things that are soon going to be announced, I'm sure. But for us to sit here and say we're reacting to them not being represented on the board when we don't even write them a check for a year, that is so disingenuous, it stinks. And nobody, not a person, has given a reason yet in any of these meetings or anywhere behind the scenes why we don't support the partnership. So why should I want to sit here, try to tear down the most successful thing that's come along to help Shelbyville in my lifetime, so that a few egos, well, I didn't get enough credit for cutting the ribbon, or I didn't get enough credit because we should have gotten this much more credit because we helped fund this and that and the other. To hell with the egos. I thought we were here to represent the citizens of Shelbyville and do the best we can. This proposal is $180,000 starting out, is what the proposal is for an economic development and tourism person. And all they're asking for is $100,000. We're going to do it in-house so we can have control. But we're not going to tell the people how we're going to control it or what we're going to get. So I will not be for it.
That's fine, and let's say, I've heard you say numerous times, I don't know how, every day, every week, whatever, you have people come up and say, why didn't you fund the partnership? How come you don't fund the partnership? I represent Ward 6. Not the first person is called, written, stopped me on the street, come by my house, nowhere, and said one word about why don't you fund the partnership, not the first word. So I guess you run into a bigger crowd than I do, because I don't hear it, and I ain't supporting.
My question to y'all is why you don't
I
want
was
to support it.
elected to support the people of Ward 6, and I'm gonna talk about that later on down in the day's agenda. But I hadn't had a single solitary soul say one word, why didn't you fund it? You need to fund it, not the first. So I guess I live in Forsyth Town. I don't live on. I heard anybody else say they were asked why didn't they fund it. We might, but that's why this will be good. We need this. And that, I don't understand, we've asked for it, we discussed it. We told Scott, we directed Scott to look at hiring somebody.
Right.
The mayor just agreed with it. So it's been discussed, it's been brought up in council meetings. I can't quote the day and the minutes that it was done, but it's been talked about. So that's where I'm at.
So as my memo stated last month, it was not the point of what somebody talked to me saying they ought to support, why we don't support the concept of the partnership. My question to you guys is why you're not going to do it. And you still didn't answer it. You tried to turn the table on me
No, I'm not trying to turn
and
it
saying,
down.
well, I've got people like I'm in a dream world or something that are telling me that, why are we not? Maybe they're talking to me because they know I support it.
That may be so.
But for you to sit there and not support it and not tell them why you're not supporting them, so that maybe they can make corrections as they have begged us to.
Why ain't you supporting it, Bobby? We'll talk about it. They hadn't asked me anything. Not the first.
I've asked you.
You'd be amazed how
I
many
formally
people,
asked
you'd be amazed how many people don't even know what the partnership is.
Oh,
You ask
there's a
them
lot
what the
of.
Shelbyville partnership, they'll look at you with a blanket face. Yeah. And that's the greatest thing that ever hit Shelbyville. No. Then I'm done. We sit here and argue, talk, discuss all night. I'm 100% for the economic development person tourism.
I just don't think we need to go rogue on our own when every economic developer in the country will tell you if you can build a successful partnership, that's where you need to spend your effort. You'll be much more successful for the community and the taxpayers.
Are we actually just, this is to actually to consider whether or not this goes on next week's agenda?
We don't have to call them. I don't care what you call them.
Well, that's the reason we kind of need definition during the discussion of the study session. Deputy City Manager, yes, will be doing a lot of economic and community development, freeing me up to do more economic and community development, but also we have needs with our municipal codes. We have needs with our purchasing policy. We have needs with our personnel policies. We have just so much that we just don't have the people power to get some of these objectives accomplished.
And we're considering purchasing this, retail development program. This person will work hand in hand. You know, why, if we're gonna purchase it, we need somebody to be involved with it, put their hands on it.
But if I may, Scott, would you maybe explain to council and to the rest of us here exactly how you see the breakdown? Because I understood, kind of like Henry, that you definitely need a deputy city manager. You need help there.
Yes.
And so I think of that as a person that works under you, that who you direct and hand off things to. In terms of economic and community development, what do you specifically see that person doing? 'Cause I'm not sure what they can do in compared to day-to-day operations of the city that have nothing to do with economic development. How much time that individual will have to go out. I mean, I don't see that person doing any recruiting.
I don't either.
I mean, I would see that person's almost being a reactive role. That person would handle anything that somebody brings to the city.
I have been a recruiter. Is that not correct?
No, ma'am, it is either or. Either allow for a deputy city manager that will take on a lot of the objectives that the city council has voiced concern with over the past several months, or a marketing and tourism director.
I think what Ginger, Attorney Schaffner was saying is that that person, that one person would not be able to justify, to amply get those duties, the responsibilities done, one particular person. I don't think there's enough time when so much is going on with our codes and our planning and so much development going on, taking that load off of maybe your department heads and everything that's going on a day-to-day to get out and recruit and do that role as well. Is that kind of, Ms. Attorney?
Yes, ma'am. I was thinking that, I mean, I just was hoping that you all who want to bring some economic development in-house very clearly express what you're expecting in terms of recruiting. Because I wouldn't see that this position as a deputy city manager / that is going to be able to go out and be a dedicated recruiter. This would be somebody that would more handle things when they're brought to you. So there's really that's not an effort of the city to go out and bring people in. It's more a reactive role. Now, I don't know how that was seen to be.
Well, and that's the reason we're asking you all to reconsider the retail development plan, because they will be, on behalf of the city of Shelbyville, actively either telling us or recruiting on our behalf the targets and, not Chili's, we already have Chili's, but other, retail establishments, including hospitality, hotels and restaurants.
And so this position that we're talking about right now, then might be the point person for working with your retail strategy. Is that how you see it, Scott?
I believe it's a combination. He or she could be the point person on occasion, or that position could free me up to be the point person on occasion. Be a good team effort. And we probably even incorporate some of the prospects are identified.
Right, but that person might be the point person to sort of move the project along once something is pointed out.
Yes, a prime example is the city council determined to push forward on the Riverview District project. They will be heavily involved. They'll be heavily involved with that and working with Glass Hollow and Johnstown to all incorporate this plan to come back here and present a concise plan and budget for council's approval.
Would you, be looking at him having an office like in the basement of the admin building, and a sign out front? Would we do that, or what are your thoughts on?
Again, it depends on the direction the council gives me they want to go. If it's gonna be a tourism director, yes, we could put them in the basement. They can answer questions to visitors, hand out brochures, whatever needs to be done. If it's a deputy city manager, it would probably make more sense to have them upstairs and then have our lobby area as a quasi information to promote and enhance visitors' experiences. I mean, there's a lot more to be developed, but I need to know from city council, do you want to go with full economic and community development program, or do you want to do a tourism program? That's the question before us tonight.
We're gonna spend the money on this retail development program, economic development.
But we all agree that the city manager needs assistance.
Yes.
Most of us, the treasurer needs assistance. You know, there's a lot going on. Every corner.
Right.
So that's a pretty big decision because, yeah, either or. But you have the economic impact for $100,000 and you've got a salary range for the other. So what you're saying is either the 100,000 or that salary range, either or, that's coming from the hotel motel.
Yes, ma'am. Because there will be enough economic and community development, projects, work, and dedication from either my position or this new position if established to justify the $100,000 transfer to the general fund.
And the total, Madam Treasurer, for the hotel motel tax on that annual basis.
We just rough it out, it's about 20,000 a month. It will probably, so much more, some or less, depending on time of year. We had a balance in that fund, at the end of August of about close to 500,000. But that's been built up over a little bit of time. I usually budget about 240,000 a year. We'll probably get more than that, but I budget conservatively.
So if this body doesn't, our next item is actually concerning the Shelbyville Partnership funding. So if this body does not go in that direction, that leaves us on an island with no economic anything. So don't we need economic something?
Gotta have it, yeah.
So that continues to leave the city manager without assistance and all of the day-to-day and all of the rooftops going up with all of these things happening somewhere out there.
Please.
Well, I think I would just add on to what you said, that if you don't do the position, it's not that there's not economic development happening. The partnership is still being funded and has plans, so you all just won't be sitting at the table. How much, and of course, I know Scott has worked very hard to develop a relationship with administration and the partnership so that he does hear about what's going on, but you all won't have a formal say in anything. Including if at some point there's another person that is, they need to hire a budget partnership. You all won't get to have a say, because we all know y'all get taken off the board as a corporation. So that economic development, as far as I know, is still going on. So there's still economic development happening. You are just not playing a role in it. Unless and until they bring to you, like what they did Chick-fil-A, they came to you looking for an incentive, and then you could be a part of the incentive, obviously, if it's directly come from the city. But you all could do your own on the side. Now, it'll be interesting to see how someone from the city and partnership in the state of Tennessee and how everybody plays along when you've got that going on. But what I think Scott is saying is that there's definitely a need for a city manager for even non-economic development issues. Plus a part of his overall, this is like 4 or 5 pieces you're talking about tonight, including the retail strategies that we just talked about, having that come in. And then, I don't know if you want to do it now or next year. Was it next year? Y'all approved back when you did your strategy session. You all approved to hire a tourism person next year. Is that not correct? So that would be another piece. That person is supposed to come in the next funding cycle budget. Is that right?
Either next year or year after. I think it's next year.
Right. So you've already made that decision. Right, so you've got that several, so I see it as several different pieces. I just want to make certain I'm on the right page, that we're all on the same page about how you're making steps. Am I speaking out of turn, Scott? Is that, no, am I reflecting what your plan is? Is that what I understand?
And one really good example, next week in Knoxville, they're having no, that's sorry. They're having the tourism conference, the statewide tourism conference for Tennessee Hospitality Association and all these others. Well, the dates for it are September 14th and 15th, which I will be here the night of the 14th with our regular monthly meeting. But if we had this position already established, I could send that person to be representing the city, making the connections, making the contacts, and promoting Shelbyville. So it's little things like that add up to the big picture of where I think the city council is wanting us to go, and that's to be a prosperous community.
And it says, and I'll read in this, that you handed this out, essential functions of the job. Number 3 is to oversee the development and implementation of a tourism development program for the city of Shelbyville, working in partnership with the city of Shelbyville Economic Community Development Committee, the mayor and city council, the Shelbyville Chamber of Commerce, the Shelbyville Partnership, educational entities, arts organizations, recreation groups, local business community, surrounding communities, and others as needed to achieve goals and objectives. We don't go out on, I mean, we're still, the doors are
We
wide
have
open.
access to all that. I mean, the Chamber of Commerce, the partnership.
Well, right now, me and my fellow,
But it's like they've been taken away from the city.
the staff is still working together. I'll just say that. The staff of each respective entity is still working together, having frequent conversations. So, yes, and of course, education and the rest of the entities involved. We have a great working relationship, Chris White in the county, uh, Shelbyville Power. Jason Reese has been involved in our committee, ECD committee meetings, and of course, plan all of our side with planning, building, public works, etc.
I'm good.
Any other thoughts from anyone? Good discussion. Number 7 was the Shelbyville Bedford Partnership funding. Scott, we'll go back to you.
Mayor, if I may make a comment on that, an email was sent last week to Chairman Coffey, and he gave me a telephone call this morning. He said they're having a meeting on Monday, September 11th. They're going to discuss it as a full board on what information to provide based on the councilwoman's request and approval by this council. And they would either have them they give us an answer one way or the other Tuesday morning, September 12th. So we could have a conversation if the information is provided as done with last month's motion. You all could have a conversation on that September 14th.
Okay. Question for Scott on that? All right, let's move to number 8, transfer of the county property to the city, the former bank drive-through, which is right off of Holland down here, between Cannon and Holland, where our Riverwalk project's gonna be. Scott?
You know, Mayor and Council, I think I'd like these meetings, but I didn't have to say so much. But on a serious note, the mayor and I had a meeting a month or two ago with Mayor Chad Graham. This meeting was set up based on a conversation I'd had with another county official to where when the city took on the Riverwalk project and the River Overlook Greenway project, that the county would not contribute financially in cash dollars, but they would provide the parking area and the bank building for a trailhead and public restrooms. So the mayor and I did meet with Mayor Chad Graham, and he did not voice any objection whatsoever. So the question tonight is, do we do a formal resolution at this meeting to go ahead and request that they quit claiming the property to the city? I just wanted to get the council's.
My opinion would be to do that. Somebody else have an opinion on that?
I agree.
Everybody agree on? Thank you, Scott.
Hey, can I ask, this went flying by me before I saw what was happening. Shelbyville Bedford Partnership, didn't the council last month ask to see a salary?
Yes.
Where is it?
They're going to discuss that at their September 11th meeting and provide it to us on September 12th to share with the council.
When's our business meeting?
Okay.
Okay, because I know Health and House, whenever, the Habitat wanted 10,000, Henry wanted to see their salary breakdown. That's fine. And it was their protocol.
Right.
But we still don't have anything from the partnership on their salary.
No, sir, not at this time.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Any other thoughts?
Well, the request was not made until last week because this is a situation, I thought it was being made from one side. That's how I thought I was the one making it. And once we compared notes and realized the formal request hadn't been sent, we sent it last Thursday.
For
So
100,000, you ought to be able to get it pretty quick.
The fact that we're no longer a part, do we even have a right to ask for them?
that may be the reason the chairman said they was going to discuss it at their September 11th meeting. because I don't think he wanted to unilaterally turn over the information and wanted to get the board's discussion and thoughts on it. Now, that's pretty much speculation. I can't read in for the chairman, but he said a lot of his people were out of town last week on vacation, and he wants the board to discuss the request.
You can always make that request. Whether or not they feel like they legally have to send it to you is a whole nother ball of wax. Which was led into our whole thing 4 years ago. Of course, I would say, I don't know, I haven't seen the partnerships finances at all. But if they still have a significant amount of city and county money, I would say that all of their stuff should be open record. And everybody should be able to walk in the door and attend their meetings. But I know that that is not a favored opinion among a lot of people at the partnership.
Any other thoughts there? Okay, moving right along. Property maintenance codes. Possible RFP for mowing services. Scott?
Yes, sir. We have been working to figure out how to enhance our property maintenance enforcement efforts. Talking to the city attorney, coach director, and we came up with two recommendations. One could be either now or looking toward fiscal year budget 2024, create a position that is fully dedicated to property maintenance only. And that would help so much because this is a big city and there's a lot of issues out there. And our building inspectors, our certified building inspectors, are having a very challenging time simply keeping up with all the inspections required for the commercial and residential. The second thing is when the locks ignore us and we have to abate them, there are several factors come into play. And number one is to have a crew from Public Works break away from their regular duties to have to go out, clean up and mow these locks. Our recommendation is for council to allow staff to issue a request for proposals for mowing services. And that way we can have some kind of contract put in place and clean these lots up much more quickly and more efficiently. No disrespect to Public Works, on the job when they go out there, but again, manpower issues. I've also asked our director, Rob Stevens, to attend tonight. So you all may be able to share some of the concerns you have of the complaints you receive in your respective wards, and let's just discuss the best way to address them in a timely and efficient manner.
A couple of things. That would be great, but we have so many violators, so many violations. Every ward in the city has numerous issues. That is, to me, a special session where extensive conversation, questions, answers can come forward. I know Councilman Bobby over here is wanting to express something that's bothered him in his particular area. And that's fine, Dandy, but yet I think to get to more of what should be addressed, please, let's call a special session on that. And something else, I know you're directing this toward mowing. We're talking March through October or November. At some point, I'm thinking that we could assist those that actually are going into these neighborhoods when it comes to our codes department. If they are splitting off and taking sections of town or a couple of wards each or that type of thing, would that person be involved in those duties? Or is that something that we want to address separately?
Well, first of all, I think your recommendation for a standalone study session on strictly on property maintenance issues. It is a fantastic idea. Good long lunch meeting perhaps, or in the evening, whatever your convenience is. I think that would benefit greatly.
We've got to do something. I've sat in here for 8 months. When I ran, I said, we're gonna try to clean things up. Southside, that's Ward 6. It's pitiful. It's pitiful. Right, y'all and I riding around, right down Davis Street. Right down Davis Street. You'll see a perfect example. And can I call the address? It's not usual. I better not. But anyway, I've got 2 houses down there in a 3-house stretch. One of them's got a boat. I'm talking about a ski boat sitting in the yard on the ground. Grass going up around it. They just throw the trash out the street. And then right next door, I've got some citizens who pay their taxes, try to live a good life. And I told Marilyn, I told someone, I'm gonna go see those people and apologize to them. Because the next house, the grass is about that tall. In both of these houses, on each side of this poor couple of people, are absentee owners. They belong to LLCs and this and over here. There's no bite, people. It ain't gonna change if you don't do something. It ain't gonna change. They just go down, they put your wood, the old furniture broke down, they set that on the side of the street. Public Works ain't gonna pick it up. There used to be, I talked to the ex-councilman, there used to be, according to him, a person who rode on city trash pickup day. He didn't, I don't think he rode in the trash truck, he rode with the trash truck. Pick up trash from Southside on Wednesday. This person on Wednesday, he would go out and tour Southside, every street Southside where there's a trash can. If there's junk laying in the yard, broke down furniture laying in the yard, he wrote down the address and what he saw. And he would turn it in to Public Works. And I know Buck covered up, he can't fool with it. But we're not doing anything. And it's not right. They're paying their taxes and the place looks like a dump. Cars, there's cars everywhere. And the folks, I think we're pretty close to time now, Brian, I can say. If a car doesn't have a blue license plate on it right now, it's probably what? Expired. It's not any trouble telling anymore. I've got 2 in my backyard right now. They're not mine, they're my neighbors. There's 2 sitting back there right now. I mean, folks ain't getting no better. You gotta make them. You know, they tell me, and I don't go to city court, they go to city court, John, he throws it out. There's no reason not to try to do right. And I told the people, we'll try it. This ain't working. Whatever we're doing ain't working. And maybe what Scott's talking, this may be the person that ex-council told me used to ride behind the trash on the trash days and write stuff down. This might be this person. But we gotta do something. We can't do, nothing ain't working. Property taxes deserve better, and they're not getting better. I know you don't want to hear it, but I'm tired of this.
I just think there should be special sessions. I know that you've got the File of Dogs down coming up. We're gonna talk about all of those issues. They deserve their own time, energy, and effort, and solutions, and, and everything kind of thrown out there. I think that would be the most effective way. Just like the police and fire, as we prepare to grow and such, we also prepare to add on in those areas. And there's only so much of a codes person that can be done with 2,500 homes coming up, Mr. Wally. And so as that goes on, and he has to get away from the responsibilities at one time, that falls on the other guys. And as it continues to grow, those guys get weaker and weaker because they're bogged down with so much going on a day-to-day basis. So we need to keep those positions, those departments strong, and get help where needed. And it's needed all over.
And and you mentioned us attaching their, I mean, or adding it to their properties, can we do that? Absentee landlords?
Well, you can after a certain amount. You have to reach in Tennessee, you have to go up to $500.
Oh, it'd be quite,
And then you have to put it on as a lien.
Okay.
And so that you ask them and we can, so you of course go through the collection process, you ask them to go ahead and pay it. And if they don't pay, of course, it's like a 2-year process to go through the delinquent tax.
so we don't attach it to their property tax.
It would be added as, we can file a lien after it's $500 or more. We put that down on the property in the registrar's office. We would go through some type of a process of billing them. Usually that doesn't go necessarily on the taxes, it's not a tax, but we can attach it. If they don't pay for it over a certain amount of time, then we can go through the delinquent tax process and add it on to that and try to do it like a tax sale.
It won't take any time, for the mowing part, $500, that'd be up to that. Give you another good street where y'all out riding, Colonial Avenue, and have a good look at what you see. See if you'd like to live on Colonial Avenue, Tom. It's just not acceptable. It's just ain't acceptable. Not with me, the rest of you may be fine, but I ain't going, and I know Maryland's had some issues, and I'm sure Gary has, and it's, we and all. It's all over Shelbyville. Because they know there's no consequences. Here, I do what I want to do, throw my stuff out there. So be it. So be it.
Yeah, it's like throwing the perfume on the pig thing. We can be all pretty with the restaurant in downtown and
Yes.
the rooftop restaurants and bars and all of these pretty things.
Yeah.
And the nice little clothes off the street we just talked about and all this. But, you ride around the corner and it's just disgusting. So there's gotta be a time where we take the time and we do these things in a proper motion manner and energy and effort, etc. So, yeah, here we are.
Let's go. Let's
Yeah.
do something.
And I think we all get calls, Councilman Turnbull, about.
Yeah.
And I've seen the situation too, and yes, we've got to do something that change, whatever that may be. Scott, we'll just need to work on that if we can. Has anybody else got anything to say on that? Let's move to number 10, animal ordinance review, fowl and dogs. Fowl, we're talking about poultry, ducks, geese, chickens, whatever.
A request was made to discuss the roosters in the cities. Apparently, some of y'all may have received complaints about them. And then also about dogs being on chains. So I reached out to our deputy chief, who also serves as animal control director. And he provided information that was discussed 2 or 3 years ago. And we do have a draft ordinance that could be considered by the council, but it's pretty prohibitive. It disallows roosters entirely. And we just, again, asked the deputy chief to please attend, so any questions we can address right now.
I have pigs, I know all of them. Pig in the backyard.
I have a comment. We ride around the dog cart a lot. We sit and talk to a lot of the neighbors, and we were discussing the fowl and the chicken ordinance. And one neighbor just said, "Well, the bottom line is, do you want chickens next door to you?"
Yeah.
And that's what you need to consider. Do you want them? Are we gonna have, we need to, decide if we're gonna have them, period. If not, if we don't go that drastic, how many should you be able to have? I think those are the two issues that we need to address as the city council. Do we want a period, or if we do, how many? I personally I would want, I'm so glad nobody has any next door to me.
I was asked to be here, and I think this is actually my third or fourth time coming before the council on this specific topic. So I will be brief, and I like Marilyn's idea of maybe combining this with that special setting where we talk about the other issues mentioned in number 9. But I would like for you to take the time this time and read over the ordinances that we have in front of you that we are proposing. I think that it will do a lot of things that you're asking. It'll help clean up the city. It's a restrictive ordinance. I've been doing this for almost 24 years, and I think there's a lot of common sense that comes in things when we present to the council that we have to take into consideration. One of those things is, if we want to permit roosters, I think we're permitting noise, because roosters are going to make noise. And I sent that email to the city manager, and I feel confident he shared that with you guys and ladies as well. So our position, my position would be that you strongly consider prohibiting roosters, and then that will effectively help us prohibit the noise that roosters make. We also proposed some restrictions. Backyard chickens is a very popular thing. Now, do I want them next to me? No. I don't even want them in my neighborhood, you know? But I see that there are areas in this city where they could be permitted with some reasonable restrictions. You know, a chicken coop with a specific number of birds. If you'll take the time to read this ordinance, you'll see that we've made those recommendations for you. We'd like for you to look it over, give it some thought, and then when we reconvene, if there's some things that you would like to add or take away, make those suggestions to me ahead of time, and we can address those with some, common sense, because, we can put this on paper and, it sounds like a good idea, but there's very little we can do to enforce it. Probably not a good idea. I would ask for your support for our animal control division. They are worked very, very, they're overworked. And this council, some of you remember about 3 years ago, we built a new shelter. One of the first buildings we built in the city of Shelbyville in a long, long time. That shelter is over capacity now, and we knew that when we built it. We can't build a shelter big enough to house all the dogs that we will bring in. So we have to, when we, draft these ordinances, we adopt these ordinances, we have to have some common sense. But we also have to prohibit all these issues. There will still be issues, but we'll do the best we can to carry out whatever you feel like is a common sense. Rewrite the entire chapter 3, and I know Lisa's working on rewriting a lot of our ordinances. It's very, very time consuming. This is just one chapter with 3 subparts. Title 3, Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 3. There's a lot of work that went into this. There will be a lot more work that will have to go into writing all the other ordinances, but it's something that needs to be done. It should have been done a long time ago. And I look forward to trying to help you out if we can. I'll take your questions. I don't want to be long-winded. I know y'all have already been here a long time tonight. So is everyone else in the audience.
I read through it over the weekend. I thought it had some, the topics were addressed, and they were addressed properly. As like you say, it's going to change as we move along, but it's a very good start. I think it's a very good start.
And I think we also have to consider, once adopted, we'll have to look at like a period that we give people.
Right.
If we were to adopt this tonight, January 1st would be, the soonest we would want to bring people, give them a grace period to get in compliance. So consider that as well, that when you enact this, you adopt this, if you do adopt it, let's think about a grace period that we would, a reasonable grace period that we want to give people. Tomorrow, yesterday was too long.
No, thank you, Brian, for, offering assistance. It's been out there, it's been thrown around, and then, of course, we get so busy, and now we're so busy. And, but there comes a time for something like this to be addressed. So I appreciate that. And it ran across me one day, they're saying, here's another example. You've got your position doing what you're doing with this type of issue. It's like, who does that? What city has
Right.
this person split off in these two different directions? But, that's none of my business. But anyway, we appreciate that. And
Well, I appreciate that too, and I have a great staff, but that staff at Animal Control is comprised of 3 full-time employees and 1 part-time. Comparatively speaking, I believe Beverly County, who answers nowhere near the calls we answer, has approximately 7 people in our Animal Control division. So we're understaffed. So when the expectations increase, don't be surprised when my expectations increase if you fill these positions. When you have 60 dogs in the shelter right now, that's a lot of animals to take care of, feeding, watering, and, just taking care of general maintenance of the shelter. And if you've got one on maternity leave right now, like we do, so you're doing that with 2.5 employees. So that's my pitch for our agency and a pitch for we're understaffed out there. And we will have to, when the expectations increase, understand that we will have to fill those slots out there as well.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Cruz. We appreciate that with all the work that's been done on it. The next item is liquor store limits. Scott?
Yes, sir. A citizen and business owner came in and requested the council consider limiting the number of and I told him I thought this was an issue that had been discussed previously by this council, but I was not here at the time, so I came. Against capitalism, that's the way it's here for council's consideration.
Seems like it comes up every new city manager, new administration, that self-serving liquor industry would like to limit their competition. I would like to do that in my business too, and everybody else in town. I'm sorry that we seem to have an ordinance regarding liquor and alcoholic beverages in general. And I think they can hide under that by limiting their competition, but we've told them flat out no in the past, and I think we still ought to keep them saying no. That we're not gonna
well, that
limit.
would open a big can of worms, wouldn't it? When it comes to free enterprise.
Well, I'm waiting for the day that the state takes that power away, that somebody's gonna challenge that on constitutional grounds. But right now, that statute exists that allows cities the power to do that. You don't have that power in a lot of other businesses, but this, and that ties back to the old days where a lot of things that you could control on beer and alcohol businesses, you could get away with. The courts would have probably supported, that the courts will not support in this day and time. So while the state statute says you can, I think it's shaky ground to do.
Any other thoughts or comments? I've heard of other businesses that people were wanting to limit. So we'll leave it right there. Will Cemetery, got some great news there. Rules and rates, Buck and Ben. Mr. Ballard and Mr. Chapman, right?
I'm basically here just to introduce him, he's gonna be all the talking, but, if you guys don't know that Ben Chapman is the Secretary of Section, has been since April, May. So he's doing a great job out there, we're doing a lot of things, we wanted to get updated on our rules, our rates and everything, I'll turn it over to Ben, and I'll be here for you.
Thank you.
I like having Buck because I can always pass the buck to him. Some pictures around, y'all just glance through them to refer to Ms. McBride's blanketing of grades. It has been an ongoing issue with Mr. George, the former, which I had the honor to get to work with for about 6 months. Me and Mr. George worked on these rules. We worked on a lot of things together. Never really got it all put together to present to it. Just different things that we deal with out there. You know, cost of everything's going up. The cemetery rates have not. And that goes into effect with the rates increase that we're requesting. I'm have any questions, but up to my part now. I think you guys all have it in there, what the rules are basically being updated. We do have certain TCAs that cover us out there as well, but our rules, they were old, and it was time to freshen up for what's happening to us now. Let's start out with the rules. Do you guys have any questions on the rules or anything else? Okay. There's a copy of it. Yeah, we have a copy of the old one. Oh, it was done on a typewriter. It's been a long time ago since it was done. We had some talking points that we handed out on the rates. Everybody get that?
Mm-hmm. It's in your packet.
Yeah.
Here. Just some of the highlights, you know, we have, we sell probably 100 plots a year. We charge 400 a plot. It's 40,000. Our annual budget is 251,000 to maintain all the cemeteries, not just Willamette. That's all the other ones throughout town. We have 5 other cemeteries that we take care of. We have, as you guys know, we've talked about it before, we're running out of room out there. We have a lot of rocky areas. We've been doing a lot of work to create some more areas that, to be able to keep it open long. That's what we want. It's gonna get to the point where it's gonna get filled up by more land or have to go a different direction. Hence the columbarium, which this time next month, hopefully you guys will be able to see out there. That's what the goal is. Last year that the rates were increased was in 2010. So it's been $400 since 2010. I think what that means in today's dollars is the 285. The 32, let's just say the 32, 36 square feet that you have there, on average, to maintain just that area for 1 year is $8 per square foot. Okay, so when you add that up, you're looking at 300 and some odd dollars that we're spending a year to maintain one plot. By the time that you get the weed whipping, the mowing, everything else that goes into it. We have another cemetery that's been here in town, and they have increased their rates, $8.50. We're not looking. This is definitely not looking for a profit. We're just trying to curb some of the losses that we're facing out there because we still want to keep growing it. We want to make sure that it's available for residents for as long as we can make it available for residents to be able to have a place to be buried in their hometown around their family. Right now, we have 30 to 40 that don't live in town that come here because our rates are so low.
They can buy 3 plots for the price of one.
So that's what we're trying to curb. We think our cemetery is special. Ben does a great job out there. He's got it looking great.
Yes.
You know, and we wanna keep it that way. So if you've seen that the plots would go for 800 is what we're recommending. And the niche that would be in the columbarium, those would be 500. But there's things that we can do. The people have suggested that possibly the ones on top could go for a little bit more and the ones on bottom could go for a little bit less. We're not opposed to that, but I guess we kind of need a little bit of direction on how you want to go. I know the 500 will cover the cost of what the columbarium will be by the time that it's filled up.
But we talking about going from 4 now
to 800. And I know it seems like a lot, but Hillcrest had a price increase 2 years ago. We never followed suit. It's just,
2000.
we've not done the small increments, is what it is.
Kept up with it, yeah.
We've not kept up. A lot of cemeteries make you buy 6, make you buy 8 plots at a time. They're still 400, but you have to buy 6 to 800 or 6 to 8 plots at one time, even when you purchase. That fills us up faster, so you really don't want to look at that direction.
Yeah. And no matter where the plot is, it's same price?
Same price.
Okay.
We want to make sure it's available for the residents.
Right.
So I'm going to effect. I guess I'm asking for a reason, because I work with David. I guess I just see families that just struggle. You know, everybody, me personally, should have life insurance. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm just asking. I mean, I'm not against going about this.
To me, you know, my suggestion would be effective immediately, because if we get the columbarium in there and we don't have prices set on that, we don't have our other rates set, it'll cost more to get a niche in the columbarium than it will to buy a plot. So I think something has to be done if, you know, I guess just some direction. If 800 isn't the number, what it's, basically, that's what, I hate raising prices every year. If you can raise the price so it lasts 5 to 10 years, I think that's a better plan than for people to feel that every year you're coming back wanting more money.
It still does keep us a little cheaper than Hillcrest.
We still run into a shortfall of over 175,000.
Okay. Yeah, we don't need that, for the city, and we don't want to overcharge people, but it looks like that's the same thing that's happening all around. And you're doing your best to try to do the work with this columbarium that you're doing, and that's going to help with people's ashes and things like that, where they'll have a place to put them in the city. I think it's positive. I think it looks good what you're doing. And I want Ben to say something before he leaves here about what you've done about locating graves in that cemetery.
I have to thank Cade in the back, because he has been a trooper on helping get the online grave finding for the city residents to be able to look up without having to come to the office.
Great.
And I've had a lot of compliments on that.
I think it's a good idea. Thank you, gentlemen.
I have a question. Looking around, what is the purpose of that?
Right now, we have too many areas of rock and not enough areas of diggable ground. So the dirt that has been given to us, we are raising those areas so we can utilize those as grave sites.
Good.
We will be building a new road. I think you guys have heard before, the gates that go into Mount Airy. We don't want people going that way anymore. We can utilize that land for a few graves that we can fit in there, but we're gonna turn the road and we're gonna come back down the hill. So it's gonna make it easier to get around in there, and it's gonna stop the issues that we have with going through people.
Any other questions? Very good. Do you have anything to add? All right, the next item is the airport sewer project. change order, and we'll ask Mr. Perry, our airport director, Paul Perry. Good evening.
Good evening. I also asked Trey Tidmore with Garber to give you a quick update. He's our project manager with Garber and can also explain the reasons behind the change.
Go.
So as Paul mentioned, just a quick update on the airport projects. We began this project in 2021 with a study to look at options to replace the aging septic system at the airport. After looking at cost and some variable, issues there, settled on a low pressure sewer system that will be privately maintained by the city and the airport, and will connect to Shelbyville Power's existing sewer system there, just directly across the highway from the airport. Began design at that point in time and bid the project in May of last year. We're beginning to plan to get to work sometime at the end of the summer last year, when we were approached by Shelbyville Power and said, hey, we have some additional needs that we're going to need you to look at. And so we've had some conversations with them during design, but we're, at least from my standpoint, relatively fresh. That everything was good to go with them when we bid the project. They then come back and say, hey, we need you to look at a couple other things, and then that is really the reason for this change order. So some things that they've asked us to add, while there's nothing here that is unreasonable. It was the reason we designed the project the way we did was to provide a quality product while also being cost efficient. Some of these things that they've asked for, while I understand the reasoning behind them, were just not standard practice for us, and some things are again not in the standard practice, which is why part of this change orders happened due to, I think, the growth that Shelbyville's experienced as their infrastructures become strained, and they're working to improve that. They basically said that we can't accept anything that isn't 100% completely the system is 100% watertight. In normal sewer expansion projects, you would install and test all the new pipe and infrastructure that goes in the ground. The existing pipe that's there is assumed to be installed correctly in good condition. So what they've come back and said, we need you to test all the existing pipe as well and make sure that is in good shape. Unfortunately, some of that pipe has been discovered to not be in good condition, and could allow for some water infiltration into the system through groundwater. So what we've had to do is go back, perform some redesigns, and add about 450 feet plus or minus of new 4-inch service laterals coming from various hangars and the terminal building there at the airport. In addition to that, Shelbyville Power has required that we add sewer cleanouts to each of those along those routes every 75 feet, which over the course of that, broken out in these various areas, is 15 cleanouts. Due to some differences in location of where the existing septic systems were believed to be at, we do have a small portion of the fire station's driveway that will need to be removed and replaced, that was not originally intended to be in the project, but to make sure that we're providing the quality product. Now that we know some of those locations, once we've been able to excavate, we have discovered that about 196 square feet of that driveway, which currently is not a space that they use in a regular, will not impact their day-to-day operations, but will be removed and then replaced to make sure things have been put back as it was prior to construction. And then in addition, the contractor, just because of these, additional requests that we've asked of them, in addition to the material and, monetary request, have asked for 32 additional calendar days, to be added to the project, which would put the substantial completion date back to, October the 14th. It's currently set at September the 12th. To provide a little update, I apologize, I skipped into talking about the change order, before I got into the progress that's been made. So after back and forth with Shelbyville Power and thinking we were on the right path, we did start construction on this project back in May. Things have been going well. We have just over 4,000 feet of force main that's been put in. We have 3 pump stations that have been put in. Essentially, the only thing remaining on this project is to install these service laterals back to the building so we can connect those pump stations, and be able to remove those existing septic systems from service, and allow the airport to really function, allow their sewer to function in the way that it needs to. So the total for that change order is $58,464, and then again, the addition of the 32 days to the contract time.
Okay. Any questions for either of these gentlemen?
Does that include any Garver, charges?
No, ma'am, no, we did not ask for any additional charges.
Thank you.
Monetary. That's part of that.
Is that gonna be a problem, Paul, the extension of the days and as far as operation?
Well, we're looking forward, of course, to the time we get to flick the switch, but, no, we want to make sure it's a good product and we don't have to worry about any issues in the
Yeah,
future.
that infrastructure needs to be.
Right.
Cool, Scott.
Will the construction activities that's been extended into October now, will that interfere any with the September 21st?
I've already talked to them about that and talked to the contractor at our last meeting. They're gonna make sure everything's as cleaned up as it can be to make sure there's no equipment out there, no activity going on. I mean, you'll see some dirt areas, but for the most part, everything will be below ground by then.
Look like
Anything
we're
else?
ready.
Thank you, gentlemen. Oh, yeah, Paula, you might just stay right there. Taxiway for the hangar development is our next item. Grant request.
Okay. Aeronautics Division calls this a grant request. It's more like an amendment to an existing contract that we already have. A grant that we received for design with Garver for a different department, of course, to design a taxiway, to open up 10 acres of raw land that we have available there between the terminal and the T hangars, and then also along 231. Aeronautics asks us to break these up into different contracts so that they can do during, because they don't want their grants to extend too long. And so this is the second phase, which gets this ready for bid. So what they'll do will be the final design, and then they'll do the project administration to be able to get this to bid. And they'll go through the bid process as well. Their current estimate right now is somewhere about $1.3 million, which I've already warned Aeronautics that's coming next. So that'll be the next grant request from me. But you can see the local share there is just $3,200, 5% local share.
Very good, very good. Any questions?
Is that guaranteed we'll get that haul, or is it, we're requesting it and hoping to get it?
No, nothing ever, of course, is guaranteed, but we do have money set aside with Aeronautics that is federal funds that will cover it. So if they don't pull it from state, they will pull it from the federal.
Okay. The other? Thank you, sir. Okay, the next item, and we'll ask Wally to come forward, annexation request for the War Trace Pike, 36.83 acres.
Yes, Mayor, good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to this new meeting space. I hope you like it. I'm just waiting for the slide here.
Okay.
Yes, So Mayor and Council, as you all know, we have been fortunate enough to receive a lot of annexation applications, and we still actually are receiving a lot. The reason why I'm saying we are fortunate, because when you receive more applications, it allows you to evaluate each one and be able to choose which one is actually best aligned with the vision of the city as well as the infrastructure. If you look at the slide here, this is the eastern boundary of the city here. So we're talking about a piece of land that is about a mile west of the eastern boundary. It's the one here highlighted in yellow. It's about 36 acres. Currently, it's in the county. And as you all know, if you look at the city map, there are lots of gaps. So this is actually in the county, but it should be in the city. So as we speak now, it has an agricultural zoning in the county. So little bit of background here. You see that it's a big piece of land. However, from discussion with Shelbyville Power, there are some reservations about sewage. So Shelbyville Power are okay with annexation while keeping it as one piece of land until the sewage issue is solved between the applicant and Shelbyville Power. So what we're talking about is just annexation without zoning, so it automatically becomes low density R1. That's why it was not accompanied by a zoning application. So if this is actually annexed, it will remain for a little bit of time as one piece of land and as R1 zone.
So your recommendation is.
I'm just gonna finish it and then.
Oh, I thought you said. You go out.
I'm gonna be very quick. So if you look at this map is actually the map for all the areas that could be annexed. The piece of land we are talking about is approximately where I am pointing at. So that's what I meant by it is a gap in the city, and this is good opportunity for annexation. And of course, the other details will be figured out after that. I'll go back to the first slide here. So yes, going back to the recommendation would be, the step is as follows. Any annexation, it comes to council just to decide if they would like to send it to the planning commission or not.
Right.
So at this stage, what we're asking is just the council will forward this application to the planning commission. If the planning commission has a positive recommendation, it will be for annexation, and there will be no subdivision or further zoning until the sewage issue is resolved between the applicant and Shelbyville. By resolved, I mean there will be, of course, some engineering studies which they are working on, and the cost of how much it will be to extend the sewage line to the boat. And of course, part of the details will be, if you look here at the existing development, you will see that the ones here to the northeast are low density. So part of what they will need to do, our expectation as a city, that the area closer to the single detached or the low density will be low density. And the area in the middle and closer to water is high can be higher density, which usually is done in a park. Again, the applicant would like it to be annexed for now.
Help me a little bit, Wally. Hillcrest, where is Hillcrest Drive? Are we close to it where it comes out on, Water Race Pike there?
So this is what is Hillcrest, I'm not sure.
Back up to the left.
So
Right there? Right there, okay. Okay, all right. So it's on that same side?
the same side.
Okay, I got you. I was thinking that was about where it was. I just want to make sure.
The item by, you might not see this piece of land because it's very much short to eat,
Right.
so you might not see it.
Okay.
Believe it or not, I've already had 2 calls about that.
You did?
I mean, it's amazing, they don't want it, they don't want it parcel. But it's what I'm asking. Sometimes you can be out riding and maybe I'm wrong. In Shelbyville, you may see a sign that says, applied for annexation or things like that. Is that a standard deal? We don't do it no more, or how do the people around know that they've applied for annexation?
The thing is, when it goes to actually after that, there will be a sign on the property. We also put a sign inside the courthouse and one in the post office. We actually advertise it online, of course, in the newspaper if we can.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about
Right.
this now, and on social media.
Because I was amazed, me, I said, how did you know this? They do, I said, they did again.
For sure, that's fair enough. I would love them to actually show up during the meeting.
Yeah, that's what I told them. I didn't realize it. So we're not gonna approve it for annexation, we're just passing it on to the.
Exactly, that's what it is.
Okay.
And I had received calls on it too, but, we're just gonna send it to the planning commission. We're not,
Yes.
yeah, that.
And
And it'll be R1 for right now, and then it would have to come back to the council and the planning commission if it wanted to be rezoned for something else later, after the Shelbyville Power, Water, and Sewer has done their work, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Typically, or generally speaking, the applicant, if they have everything in place,
Right.
will apply for annexation and the zoning at the same time. We can align the time together. However, in this case, they just are asking for annexation because it might take them 6 months or so until they do all the engineering requirements.
So when it comes to us finally for annexation, all of that will be worked out, and all the requirements and will be met. They'll have the planning commission approved before it comes back to council.
Let me clarify this. When it comes, now we are talking about annexation as one piece of land.
Right.
So they don't have to do any of the engineering requirement. If they come back later, after annexation is done, and they want to say do a part, or do a subdivision, or anything else, they would have to get all the engineering requirement. Thank you.
Any other questions? Very good, Waleed. Okay, next item.
I have another one.
Okay.
Oh, you're not next, though.
He's doing mounted shooters.
No, that's yours.
Sorry, it's after that, I meant it that, but sorry, I meant number 18, it didn't come to this point yet.
Okay.
Snap back here.
You good? Okay. All right, number 16, mounted shooters request. Scott, that's a event at the Celebration Ground, isn't it?
Yes, sir. You all may recall last April or May, we received a request for 2 events that were going on at the Celebration Grounds. One of them was a cowboy mounted shooting show, which is a nationally renowned show, high competition, try to get it to your community. And the other one was a salad bread competition. City Council voted at that time to fund both the programs because it was affirmed that they do put the heads in the beds, good tourism attraction, good promotional campaigns. Well, through everything, we did not realize that the CEO of the celebration also thought we had approved the fall Cowboy Mounted Shooting Show, which is coming up September. We don't have the date on here, but it's coming up next week in essence. And so Mr. Wells sent us a request. We sent it to the mayor and myself for us to share with the council, so what your thoughts were on funding the Fall Classic in the amount of $5,000 for the Cowboy County Shooting Show.
How much?
5,000. The spring show was 7,500 as approved by council, but because it's now established in Shelbyville and there's a connection with Shelbyville, he said 5,000 would certainly handle it for the fall show.
That's coming out of a hotel motel funds, correct? Okay.
I would assume so, yes.
Okay.
How many days is it?
5.
I think it's a 4 or 5.
I think it was 3 last time.
It'll be September 9th through the 16th.
It'll be a long.
In his proposal, that he submitted February 22nd. He had it included with the Southern Saddlebreds and Cowboy Mountain Shooters for the March, April show. This one, September 9th through 17th. 16th.
Okay. Any questions? Further questions for Scott? Okay. All right, next item, and I've got an added, is that right, Lisa?
Yes, sir.
Governor's Conference, Scott?
Yes, this just came to our attention last week. The Governor's Conference is going to be hosted in Chattanooga Monday, September 18th and Tuesday, September 19th. And at first, when I was first told this, I thought it was simply the tourism conference. But no, this is the Governor's Conference for this year. And that is co-hosted with the Economic and Community Development Department of ACD, Tennessee. So it's critical that we have a presence there. And just like to report the council, say who may be interested in going, and we can work on getting a room. We'd only need one night because
what's the date?
18th and 19th. It starts at approximately 11:30, I think, on Monday, September 18th. And then it concludes after the governor's luncheon on Tuesday, September 19th. So it just be a one night stay.
And that's in Chattanooga?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions for Scott on that?
Just to let council know, what we'll do is I'll prepare a resolution like we normally do. When we go to any conferences like this, we present y'all with the resolution just authorizing the, whoever goes,
Right.
authorizing them to go and their expenses and stuff. So I'll have that resolution on your business meeting next week. And then if anybody wants to go, let, me, Lori, Scott, one of us know so we can get your rooms and stuff reserved.
And I would recommend letting us know ASAP. We can go ahead and reserve the rooms. And then if for whatever reason, the meeting on 14th, the council decides not to put the resolution, we can always cancel.
Anybody have comments or agreeable or disagreeable with that? All right. All right, let's go to old business. There's none.
Yeah.
New business, ordinances, first reading. An ordinance of the Shelbyville City Council to approve the reinstating of Creekview Villas PUD bulk regulations shown on the PUD site plan as recommended by the Shelbyville Municipal Planning Commission, and repeal any ordinance or part of any ordinance or an ordinance in conflict herewith. Waleed, you need to enlighten us on that?
Thanks, Mayor. Mayor, you and council member Benbow might remember the discussion we had last week, but I'm just gonna go over it again. So what we're talking about is this site here. This is South Cannon, as you can see. So back in the days, folks, I believe like 2007 was the first time the city ever had a park. And that might have been the first park that was ever approved by the city. If you can tell it, as you see, this is how it looks like. So it has 2 single families. The site also has townhomes. The site is about 5 acres. And this is the type which actually zoned R4 as we speak, not R6. So what happened is the applicant back in 2007 applied for a park. Back then, the requirement we have as we speak in our zoning ordinance did not exist. So you would just apply, submit what we call a plan, and have all the measurements instead of following the regulation in the zoning board. By the regulations, I mean the minimum lot size, what you can have, what you cannot have, the front yard, the setbacks, all of that was just submitted on a sheet. For whatever reason that staff could not find, in 2013, staff at that time asked asked the applicant to apply to remove the pod and in a state R4, which is high density. We could not find why this happened, but we submitted to you part of the email that staff were asking the applicant to remove the pod.
Right.
So what is the issue of actually removing the pod?
Mhm.
What happened is what was built because the pod was removed became non-conforming because it does not meet any of the requirement of the R4. What is the issue of that? If anybody would like to make any changes to the house or any addition, they have to go to BZA and they might not approve that. Well, that was not the whole story. This is basically showing you how it looks like the site now.
Right.
You can see it's mostly built out. 20 units are built out. You can see like all of it is just almost done. The issue is those ones that are almost kind of gray or black are already built. You see those 5-1 in white, they were envisioned back in 27. They are not built yet.
Mhm.
However, because the site does not meet the requirement, these 5 lots cannot be subdivided out. So what we're asking here, even though it doesn't meet the requirement of today's zoning ordinance, because it was a mistake done by the staff, we're asking the city council to reinstate the part as it was without all the requirements that are applicable in today's zoning ordinance. And basically by the fact, I mean this. So if you recall, like any part which is a planned unit development will require a pattern book. We are not asking for it because the way staff looks at it, it's not a new part, it's an existing one that we are just helping fixing a solution.
All right. Any questions for Waleed on that particular ordinance? That's the first reading now. All right, Waleed, if you would just stay right where you're at. An ordinance of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee to approve the rezoning of 32.36 acres owned by the city of Shelbyville, located at 2764 Highway 231 North, immediately to the west of the city of Shelbyville's municipal airport, and reference on Bedford County Tax Map 059, parcels 14 and 1401. From Bedford County A1 Agricultural and Forestry to Shelbyville Commercial C2, and repealing any ordinance in conflict herewith.
So
Where that property is?
So we are talking about the property here and the smaller one here. As you speak, they're all owned by the city.
Right.
And you can see there's a house here. This one is being demolished as we speak. So this one, which is located on what is shown as 1401, this will continue to be used for a while based on the contract between the city and the owner. So,
Yeah.
as you all know, this is all owned by the city, and it is meant in our future land use map to be for commercial / other activities that can support commercial uses, which is basically what is the zoning ordinance that you have is talking about. We're talking about almost 32 acres, and it is now in the county, and the zoning is agricultural. There was a lot of discussion over almost a year about the use. So C2 is the most flexible use in the city. It can allow, educational facilities, the hotels, commercial uses, retail. So it cannot be more flexible, and it's a great location. It is on the highway. And if you look at the plan of services that you have a copy of, you will see that everything from servicing will be secure. We have the commitment from the different parties.
Right.
And other stuff, which is regarding subdivision, I know there might be some subdivision later on, but we don't have to figure it out now. It depends on, the future,
That's property where the MTSU project will be, right?
Yes,
Okay.
most of it, but as far as I know, a portion would be left that would be used for.
Yes, yes. Like 15 acres of it or something like that with MTSU. Any questions from council on that? Okay, thank you, Waleed, for that. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, number 20, an ordinance to amend the municipal code of the city of Shelbyville related to the publication requirements of meetings. Ginger?
Yes. Mayor, we're gonna bring forward for you an ordinance that changes that and takes that requirement out.
You question council on that? Okay, the next is an ordinance to amend the adopted budget, ordinance as amended of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee, various funds for the fiscal year 2023-2024, the period ending June 30, 2024. And I think Kay handed those out before the meeting. Any questions on that? Has everybody had a chance to look those over?
I need to talk about a couple.
All right, go right ahead.
We can try to speed through them. The first one that, we applied for the BCI, grant for the police department, to hire 3 additional officers along with benefits and equipment. They received the grant, so this amendment would just be appropriating the associated revenue expenditures. That's all this is. The second amendment, last year the council approved $165,000 for Griggs and Maloney to perform the preliminary engineering report on the flame pump system. That they didn't complete that fully until this fiscal year. So last year we paid them $65,000. We owe them $100,000 this year. So I need to add $35,000 to the budget. So that's what this is about. The next one I need some direction on. As we all know, the council approved the $300,000 economic development incentive for the Chick-fil-A project. I know Henry had mentioned at a study session about these funds coming from the general fund because that's where sales tax will go. However, when I looked in the council minutes, when it was actually approved, and Lisa helped me find those, it did not specify where to take the funds from. Currently, we have not been asked for the funds yet, but I need to know the will of the council as far as where to take the funds from when I do write the check. And we will be writing the check to the Industrial Development Board, and then they will forward them to the appropriate party.
Right.
So I don't know if y'all want to talk about that now or later, but I need some direction on that as far as what fund.
My recommendation is take that out of the hotel motel fund. That's economic development. That's my recommendation.
See what?
Taking that $300,000, we don't take it out of fund balance, we take it out of hotel motel.
Where did the MTSU 300 grand go?
It went into the general fund.
It goes to general fund. But the economic development, we have to have so much spent on economic development. Of course, Chick-fil-A is economic development, so that's the reason I'm asking that to be taken out of that fund. That's my recommendation. The council may have a different idea.
But we have 500 and something
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah, we've got money in there,
We have
yeah.
roughly 500,000 right now.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Kay, what else?
Okay, page 2. We don't know yet if y'all are gonna approve removing the metal buildings, but I went ahead and put it down there in case you do. And if you do, this is the amendment we would need next week. Lori, I think, is gonna cover that later. The next one, the 50,000, Mike and them applied for the Department of Health grant for the master plan for the trail and greenways, and we got the grant. So this is just appropriating the funds for the revenue and expense side. There's no match on that unless it goes over 50,000. The next one, the 132,000. The council approved 146,625 last year. However, TLM that's working on our plans for the fire and police and so forth, they only billed us 14,000 last year, so the balance of that's going to go to fund balance. So this is just reappropriating in this year's budget what we didn't spend last year. So that's what that is. The next one, the 35,000. The council approved 20,500 for a new HVAC at this building. We've had a few other items come up that we needed to spend for this building. So this would just be, we didn't have any money necessarily appropriated in this year's budget for this building. So this would put 35,000 in there, and 20,500 has already been approved by the council. That's what this one is. Next page, planning capital, which actually will serve building and codes, planning, public works and so forth. They put in money for a plotter scanner. They originally thought it was gonna be 7,000. They've run into it's gonna be more than that. So this would add an additional 5,000, but we hope we can get it for less than 12. If you want me to stop, tell me, but, the next one, the police had ordered several cars. They were very slow coming in. So even though we had over 500,000 budgeted last year for cars, we only spent 54,000. So a lot of that, instead of rolling it, we're reappropriating it this year. So that's what that 498,000 is. It's kind of a carryover, but not, if that makes sense. The next one is just if you approve the change order for the airport, that's just, that's what that was for, that Paul and the guy just, sorry, I just forgot his name. He explained that to us. So that's what that is. The last page, MTSU, the council's approved for us to pay Garver $130,800 for the environmental assessment. MTSU will reimburse us. This is just putting the money on revenue and expense side. It won't, we have to pay it first and get reimbursed. Next one, Scott mentioned y'all about 14.5 for the Riverview streetscape. And the retail development consultant, we don't have a recommendation yet. It is anywhere from 25,000, I think, to 37,000. We have 20,000 in the economic development budget right now for professional services. We would need another 31.5, or we would need up to another 31.5 to cover those two projects that Scott mentioned to us. So if you wanted to do that, we can do that. We can lower it, raise it if you want to. And then the last one, depending on what y'all do on Habitat for Humanity, that's the 10,000. So that's a lot of amendments for August and September, right?
Any questions for Kay Parker, our treasurer, Ms. Parker? Thank you for that information. Anyone? All right, let's move to the next item. Resolution. A resolution adopting a plan of services for an area proposed for annexation. The territory is a 32.36 acre tract of land located on 2764 Highway 231 North, on the east side of Highway 231 North, and referenced as Bedford County Tax Map 059, parcel 1401, to be annexed by an owner, consent, and to be incorporated within the boundaries of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee, owned by the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee. Waleed, do you have anything to add to that? We already went over that. Okay. All right. 23, a resolution to annex certain territory upon written consent of the owner and to incorporate the same within the boundaries of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee. This property is a 32.36 acre tract of land located on 2764 Highway 231 North, on the east side of Highway 231 North, and referenced as Bedford County Tax Map 059, parcels 1401, and owned by the city of Shelbyville. Two resolutions there look like on the same piece of property.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
A resolution by the city of Shelbyville. Waleed, do you have anything to add there? Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor, if I
24.
could, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
I'm trying to talk, but it's not listening to me. Okay, if I could let everybody know, just to explain the difference in those. The first one is for the plan of services. The first resolution, same property, and it's the same property as Waleed explained, was asking to be rezoned. So on your next agenda, your business agenda, your resolutions are gonna come first, because you have to annex it first, then rezone it. So the annexations will come in first, and the first one is just saying that if we annex it, we will provide the services to it. And then the second one is the actual annexation.
Thank you. All right. The 24 is a resolution of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee, authorizing a grant contract between the state of Tennessee, Department of Transportation, Aeronautics Division in the amount of $15,000 for fiscal year 2023 and 2024. Lisa?
This contract is just a resolution standard for our $15,000 that we get from, for maintenance at the Aeronautics Division. We get it every year and it's always $15,000. We just have to bring it to y'all as a standard practice.
Any questions? Okay, 25, a resolution of the city, of the Shelbyville City Council to participate in the PE Partners Property Conservation Matching 50/50 Grant Program for 2023. Lisa?
And if it's okay with you, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to take the next three and save you a little reading.
Great.
The first one, all three of these are resolutions to authorize us to apply for grants that are available to us through our insurance company, PE Partners. The first one is for property conservation. It's a 50/50 matching grant. We can use it for fencing, cameras, security cameras, different things like that. The second one is a driver safety matching program. It's also a 50/50 grant. And usually, I'm not exactly sure what they usually use that for, but I do know that we've been told we can use it for driver's license checks for our CDL drivers that we have to have. So I think that's what we're planning on trying to use it for this year. And then the third one is a new one. It's a cybersecurity grant. I'm not exactly sure what it will cover, but it is also a 50/50 grant, and it doesn't come available until the end of the year. But we wanted to go ahead and get them all three covered, all the resolutions approved. That way, when the grant opens, we can go ahead and apply for them.
Thank you, ma'am. Number 28, a resolution. Anybody have questions on those? Okay. Number 28, a resolution to authorize appropriations for nonprofit organization Habitat for Humanity. Lisa?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I was distracted.
I ain't walked you gum at the same time, sorry. The resolution for the Habitat, we've had that on the agenda several times and discussed it. It's for $10,000, $10,000 to the nonprofit organization Habitat for Humanity to help them out. We have met all the requirements that are necessary. We've advertised it. It'll be presented to you as a resolution for the council to vote on at their 14th meeting.
Any questions on business items, surplus? We'll ask Ms. Sadler to come up. Lori?
Thank you. This is item 29 on your agenda. So for the meeting, you were given a bundle because these did not make the packet last week.
They are, I'm sorry, Lori, I don't want to interrupt you, but I have updated the packet. So if everybody's looking at their iPads, they're probably on the iPads. I updated them this afternoon.
I know what time I gave them. Okay, surplus. The police department has a 2006 Chevy Impala. This was a court-awarded seizure. Through our police department, proceeds from the sale of this vehicle will be placed in the police drug fund. That's a normal procedure for court-awarded seizures. The Parks Department has a 2005 Dodge Ram. The rec center changed out a lot of lighting in the gymnasium area. They went to LED, so we have 46 light fixtures. Planning department has an old plotter printer that is for parks only with supplies that might be valuable to someone out there. I'd like to request to surplus these 4 items through govdeals.com. And then the next section of the surplus is requesting to surplus the following as a special exception and to be sold to Bedford County Sheriff's Department per their request. For those of you who've been on the council a while, you've seen this, but those who just came on this past year, in our surplus policy, there is a special exception section, and if you flip over to page 2, I've put an excerpt in there from the policy Special exceptions for sale, transfer, or donation of a resolution amended in 2014. Upon request from, in this situation, the county government may request in writing that a special exception be found allowing for the sale, transfer, or donation, and I won't read the whole thing. But page 3 is Sheriff Swing's letter requesting 5 vehicles. He actually asked for any available surplus patrol vehicles. Chief Phillips provided the next page list for 5 vehicles, that we are surplusing. And they have worked out a price of $3,000 per vehicle, which Chief Phillips researched what we had been making on gov deals on our last few car sales. And that's a pretty good average. So,
Any questions on that? Any other surplus items?
and these, I don't think I said it, but you can read Sheriff Swing's letter. This is for the SRO positions around the county that they increased this past year.
Okay.
The next item is the removal of the 3 metal buildings at H.G. Griffin Park. Little history on this. We originally surplused these items, I guess, almost a year ago. We thought maybe we could let an RFP and make money. We didn't get any responses on that one, so you all authorized me to let another RFP to pay someone to remove the buildings. We had 8 responses, which that was really pretty awesome from my perspective. The low bidder was Z&S Demolition from Franklin for a total complete demolition of $37,600. And I will point out that there is not a budget for this. And that's why Kay had it on her amendments. If you all decide to do this, based on the 8, which I don't know if you all are looking at this or not, but they ranged from over $400,000 to the almost $38,000.
Different one.
And
Remember that was open to the bids.
I included their bid to this staff summary because I wanted you to see that they were very thorough with their submittal. They are state licensed contractors. They provided a copy of their insurance. I believe them to be very reputable.
Okay. Like a home run time to sell that stuff for scrap.
Yeah. That's a big difference in bids. Thank you, Lord. That's good. That's good that we're finally gonna get something done there, looks like.
Okay.
Any questions for Lori on that at all? Okay, Lori, you want to go ahead with the invitation to bid?
The next one, and we had a bid opening last Monday, which we opened the metal buildings that day too. Paving and maintenance, street maintenance for 1 year because has 2 1-year options for renewal. We only had 1 bidder, Right Paving Contractors, Fayetteville. I did include their bid with the staff summary as well, so you could see how thoroughly that they responded to the new bid package that our public works staff implemented. The bid does appear to be responsive, and Public Works Director Vlad reviewed the submission and recommends award to Right Paving Contractors.
Can you give us a comparison with what they bid versus what the option if we elected to take their option for another year?
Oh, I didn't even think about putting that with this. Do you know right off?
It's kind of apples and oranges because, we've gotten rid of a lot of the trucking lines and everything else. So we put the ton price, what it actually is going to cost us to put it down. So before our ton price was about $65 a ton. now it's 100, but you don't have all these side, amounts coming in.
That was the only bid we got on that, right?
I'm sorry.
That was the only bid
Yes, sir.
we received.
And I can tell you, I mailed out to probably 5. It went out on vendor registry. Thing is, what you'll see with rock too, and paving, it all depends on their plants. They gotta have a plant nearby. So,
Any questions for Laura on that?
did you all understand what Buck was saying? I don't wanna belabor this night, but it used to be on the old bid, we had all these, what would you call them, like
Additional
trucking,
items. Right.
milling. They would have a price for just mobilization. What he's created on this new document is the asphalt in place price. So the asphalt price is higher, but we don't have all these other fees.
That's correct.
That's right.
Easier to track, and we did add like curbing, which we didn't have before, and some other items. In case there was an emergency or something, some pipe had to get put in, or a guardrail or something like that. We gave ourselves more flexibility with this one.
Is there still striping that's separate or not?
Yes.
Striping is separate, and it's included in this packet.
And it's got options for renewal.
Yes, sir.
Next item, please.
Rock products, this is another bid that has 2 one-year options for renewal. As you all know, Rogers Group didn't want to renew a month or so ago, so we had to go back to the bid table. 2 bids were received, Rogers Group Shelbyville. I won't read all these, but you can see all their FOB quarries and then deliveries within city limits. Vulcan chose not to quote on any deliveries. The lady that was present at the bid opening said, "We want you to call us to get a quote." Well, you know, the purpose of a bid like this is so we don't have to call you every time, other than to just order. So anyway, Rogers Group is really the only one that meets the bid specifications fully, and we recommend going with Rogers Group. And I will say that we have been extremely pleased with their aggregate products in the past.
They're both local, that's good. Next item?
Is to refinish the outdoor pool slide at the rec center. We had 2 bidders, and the low bid is Amusement Restoration Companies of Burnett, Texas. The Parks and Recreation staff reviewed. They recommend awarding to the low bidder for the base bid only. Their budget was $19,000, and this came in at $13,105. And I'm going to use that overage on the next one.
Okay.
Okay, the next one is the indoor pool deck surface.
Yes.
It came in at $59,453. The budget's $55,000. Both of these were capital fund items for the rec center. So we could use that little bit of stake on the slide for the floor covering.
Any questions for Lori on that, or I noticed our recreation director, Mr. Hawkins, is here too, if you had a question for him.
And can I add what I want to
Yes,
add?
go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
There,
last page is a Tennessee statewide contract purchase. The Building and Codes Department had budgeted for a Ford Explorer. We learned from our vendor last week that they will not be receiving any Explorers the rest of the year. Production on 2024 Explorers is not expected until spring, and then deliveries would follow how after that. So he has a Ford Maverick truck that's on the statewide contract. It will be there in 3 to 4 weeks. And it's a savings of $7,788 in the capital fund. And it meets the needs for the codes department.
Any questions on that? Thank you, Lauren, our purchasing director. Lisa Smith, our city reporter, has been helping us tonight. Last item is appointments. Library, city council representative, and citizen representative. I still don't have a council member that I can recommend to you tonight, but we do have a citizen representative. You want to tell us about that, Lisa, or you want me to go ahead?
No, I'll go ahead, because actually we don't have, we had appointed a citizen representative last month, and it turned out that once the gentleman found out when, the, meetings were, he was not able to give the time. So they asked us to appoint someone else, and they had give me a recommendation. They've since discovered that he lives in the county. So, we have to find somebody else. So we're still looking for a citizen representative for the library board.
Thank you, Lisa, for that update. All right, other business, anybody have any?
No, sir.
Announcements, anybody have any?
I'll make one really quick. And that is, we thank you to Public Works, Ron Stevens, Kevin, Bug, and everybody for this facility.
Lisa,
Lori, Kay, all helped plan it out. Exceptional.
Thank Mr. Chase.
Thank you so much. Let's adjourn.
We having staff in the morning too. Are you sure? Staff meeting's canceled. Nobody turned me off. Hey, staff meeting is canceled for in the morning. Staff meeting is canceled for in the morning.